picture this for a second. A bustling, sprawling metropolis, maybe drawn in the vibrant, dynamic style of a high-quality anime. Imagine the neon lights pulsing, high-speed trains rushing along the elevated tracks, and goods moving seamlessly from these vast automated factories straight to busy corner shops. Millions of citizens are out there working, earning, and spending. Well, that endless, mesmerizing flow of energy and commerce is exactly what we're going to explore in today's Explainer. We're looking at the absolute fundamental mechanics of production, income, and spending in the mixed economy. It's essentially the engine that keeps our modern world turning. Here is our roadmap for building this economic model today. First, the 3 economic flows. Then, snapshots and moving pictures. Third, the factors of production, followed by the 4 spending entities, injections versus leakages, and finally, the aggregate expenditure equation. Let's dive right in.
Part 1. The 3 economic flows.
Before we get into the nuts and bolts, let's just pose a fundamental question. How does a modern economy actually keep moving? I mean, what is the invisible force that prevents our massive, bustling city from simply grinding to a complete halt? The answer lies in a perpetual circular engine. It basically comes down to 3 primary events: production, income, and spending. Firms produce goods and services, right? But to do that, they have to pay for resources, which instantly generates income for the very people providing those resources. Those people then turn right around and use that income for spending, buying the exact goods and services that were just produced. The absolutely crucial thing to grasp here is that this isn't some step-by-step relay race. These 3 flows are happening simultaneously. Because it's a circular flow, there's literally no beginning and no end. They form the continuous heartbeat of the economy. Let's ground this with a real-world number. Imagine a household spends 5,000 rands on a brand new smartphone. The exact moment that consumer spending happens in the goods market, it instantly becomes 5,000 rands of revenue for the firm. The firm then uses that money to pay the wages of their engineers, the rent for their factory space, and the interest on their equipment. The spending literally becomes income, which will then fuel the next round of spending. That is the true kinetic energy of the circular flow in action.
Part 2. Snapshots and moving pictures.
These 2 measurement concepts trip people up all the time, but the crucial takeaway is this: a stock is a frozen snapshot in time. Think of your total wealth on, say, February 28th. A flow, on the other hand, is a moving picture with a specific time dimension, like your monthly salary. You literally cannot measure a flow variable without stating the time period. Is it per week, per month, per year? Meanwhile, a stock completely ignores the time period. It just asks, okay, how much of this stuff exists right at this very second?
The classic bathtub metaphor hits the nail on the head here. Think about it. The water pouring out of the tap, that represents the flow. It's moving, it's continuous, it has a volume over time, just like your income or a nation's total production. Now, that flowing water continuously adds to the resting water sitting in the tub, right? That resting water is the stock. It's your total accumulated wealth or the total capital in an economy right now. When the flow changes, the stock naturally changes right along with it.
Part 3. The factors of production.
Now that we understand how things flow over time, we really need to know what actually generates the production in our city in the first place. To produce absolutely anything in our bustling anime metropolis, you need inputs. We call these the factors of production, and every single one maps directly to a specific type of income, which we call remuneration. First up is land, which covers all natural resources, minerals, forests, water, and the income earned from it is called rent. Next is labor, which represents all physical and mental human effort. The reward there is wages. Then we have capital. Now, in economics, capital means physical machinery, tools, and factories. Its remuneration is interest. And finally, entrepreneurship. This is the driving force. It's the innovator who brings those other 3 factors together, takes on the risk, and earns profit as their ultimate reward.
But hold on, we need to pause here for a second to clear up a really common misconception. Did you notice what's conspicuously missing from our list of factors? Money. Money itself is not a factor of production. Unlike a heavy-duty robotic arm or a highly trained engineer, you cannot build a car out of a stack of 50-pound notes. Money serves exclusively as a medium of exchange. It's just the fluid that lubricates the economic engine, making it infinitely easier to trade goods and services without having to rely on bartering.
Part 4. The 4 spending entities. With our production engine up and running, let's expand the model a bit.
We know how income is earned by those factors of production, but who are the main actors out there actually spending it? We can progressively build the entire economy from the ground up by looking at 4 distinct actors. Step 1 is the bedrock, households. This is you and me acting as consumers, spending our wages to satisfy our daily wants. Step 2 introduces firms. Businesses don't just produce, they also spend money by investing in new capital goods, like upgrading their machinery. Step 3 brings in the government. The public sector collects taxes, but it also buys goods, builds roads, and hires public servants. And finally, Step 4 opens our metropolis up to the rest of the world, the foreign sector. We don't exist in a vacuum, right? We buy goods from other nations, and they buy goods from us.
Part 5. Injections versus leakages. Let's bring back our plumbing analogy to see how this immense system gains and loses its vital fluid. For our city's economy to stay stable and robust,
In its most basic form, households sell their factors of production to firms to earn an income. Then they turn right around and spend that exact same income buying goods and services from those very same firms. Look at how perfectly reciprocal this is. Households own the labor and the land. They sell it in the factor market. Firms buy it, produce goods, and sell those goods right back to the households in the goods market. It's a perfectly closed, continuous loop.
But things get really interesting when the government steps into the middle. The government acts as this massive central hub. It extracts funds through taxation from both households and firms, but then it injects spending right back into the flow by building roads, funding healthcare, paying public servants, you name it. It completely alters that simple two-sector loop we were just looking at.
Finally, we expand to a fully open economy. Because let's face it, no modern economy is totally isolated. This shows how domestic money flows out to pay for imports, while foreign money flows in to pay for our exports. When you buy a car made overseas, your money leaves our domestic circular flow. But when we sell agricultural products to another country, foreign money gets injected directly into our local firms.
Let's tie everything together mathematically. Section 6, the aggregate expenditure equation. Here it is. Aggregate expenditure equals consumption plus investment plus government spending plus our net exports, which is exports minus imports, again represented by Z. This is an elegant little formula that calculates the total spending in the entire economy. A is the aggregate, C is household consumption, I is firm investment, G is government spending. Then we add X for our exports, but we absolutely have to subtract our imports, Z, because that is money that leaked out of our country.
So we've completely mapped out the system, but I want to leave you with a rather provocative thought. We know that the economy relies on this continuous dynamic balance, right? But if every leakage, like household savings or taxation, requires a corresponding injection, like business investment or public spending, to keep the whole system flowing, what happens to the magnificent machinery of our city when the plumbing gets blocked? What actually occurs when the leakages far outweigh the injections, and the water level in our bathtubs starts dropping dangerously low? It's a fascinating question. And grasping these simultaneous flows of production, income, and spending, that is the very first step to finding the answer, and to understanding your own role within that massive system.